when you're speaking to someone, avoid saying you, because that's very aggressive, in my opinion. Keep it business focused. Also ask questions. Don't go straight in there without understanding them. Be curious about the other person. And I don't mean here's a templated script. Genuinely be curious about the other person. Who are they? Why are they behaving the way they behaved? Why did they do what they did? Ask them.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Erin, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world but fed up with the BS.
I know. It's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy. It's comedy. It's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Hey, my friend. It's Erin here again with another interview. This time we're talking to Paru Radia. And let me just say, if you've ever struggled with this part of your job, having tough conversations, then you have to listen to this, because I will tell you, I was a CEO, I led this big turnaround, I've been called a badass, I have this confidence. I hate having tough conversations. I just do, with employees that are a challenge, with clients where we've had a problem, with my husband all the time. It just sucks, right? Like, we need to spend more time listening to others and seeking new ways to frame out those conversations and not dread them so much. And that was the first thing I heard when I first met Paru. I thought, she has so much knowledge and so much to share, but her candid nature and the way that she's able to really slap you upside the head when you're not being honest or you're thinking sideways or you're holding back was just evident from the start. So Paru is an executive strategist and a business consultant. She's an executive coach on steroids. In fact, she's often been called the C-suite whisperer and an execution ninja. And her focus is to work with executives at various stages in their career to really assess their mindset and the patterns, behaviors, strengths, success criteria, development needs, all that stuff, so that they can really articulate what they want. What do you really, really want? And ultimately, she helps them take control of their business careers and lives while staying true to who they are. So, perfect for this podcast. You will absolutely adore her out of the gate. Her British accent will swoon you first, but really it's her nature, her knowledge, and just the way about her that I think will inspire you to have better tough conversations, plus so much more. So enjoy this conversation with Paru. So first, I have to say, like, when we fell in love or when I fell in love, I don't know if it's mutual, but
It's mutual.
For our listeners, it was the moment when, I will paraphrase, when you were recounting a client, an executive client, because you're an executive coach and among other things, which we'll talk about. And you said to them, I said something like, "Are you fucking stupid?" I think you said to them, which you young Brits can get away with.
I did not drop the F-bomb. And I pre-warned him that I was about to say something that could be construed as harsh, because I wanted him to brace himself rather than be shocked into it.
Yeah.
And I didn't call him stupid. I said what he said was stupid.
Okay.
There's important in the nuances.
I love it. And obviously, it wasn't just your what I perceived as the F-bomb, but your candor. And I consider myself somebody pretty bold. And when you meet somebody like you who is bold in a different way, and in your candor and what you do, it's really inspiring, just so you know. And
Thank you.
What I'm excited about is for our listeners to get that. And just like I heard something slightly different, they're going to hear own versions of what they hear, but then they take to their jobs, to their life, to their career. So I want to start with CEO Whisperer. You call yourself the CEO Whisperer, which
the C-suite
if I saw
whisperer.
it on a page, I would probably side eye you and be like, "Really?" but I met you and I was like, oh my gosh, she totally is. But tell us more about like where that came about.
I was talking to a client a few years ago, and I was describing what I do without making it sound prescriptive. I was genuinely saying, I say this and I hear this and I do this. And then I question them on that. So have you seen The Ghost Whisperer?
Haven't.
Did you? Okay. So years ago, I saw a few episodes of that, and it's a lady who sees and talks to ghosts and translates what the ghosts are saying to people who are human and on Earth who haven't passed yet. And she's the medium between what they say and what people hear. And while I was describing what I do to this client, I think she was a prospect at the time. She did become a client, a prospect at the time. And I saw Jennifer Love Hewitt just in my head. I'm like, I do what she does, but for executives. And it just came out and it said, I'm a C-suite whisperer. And she completely got it. She's, oh. And it stuck because she actually used that term a week later when she told someone she'd hired me. She said, I'd hired a C-suite whisperer. And then she wrote about me on LinkedIn and said, Paru's a great C-suite whisperer. I'm like, well, I guess that's what I am then.
Yeah, it's validating. You said something I want to go into a little bit deeper. You said that the ghost whisperer sort of translates between what somebody says and actually what people hear.
Yeah.
What is that thing that often gets mistranslated the most when you're working with C-suite executives out to their teams or out to their bosses? What gets lost in that translation?
Intention. This applies to everyone. I find that people are so busy thinking about themselves and what they think other people are hearing. I don't mean themselves in a, hey, I want it to be all about me. But no matter how senior you get, so can I swear on this show?
You absolutely can.
So no matter how senior you get, it's the same shit with more at stake. It's the same insecurities, the same miscommunication, the same need or desire or intention to have the business be successful as well as yourself, the same want to look good and be liked or be understood or be seen or be heard. We're all human.
Hallelujah.
There's just more at stake the higher up you get.
And what does, with that more at stake, what does it tend to affect? And how do you, and now we're talking sort of generalities, but I'm just curious. I think that's so succinct. It's profound, but yet logical. How do you curb that and help?
Oh, I wish there was a pill someone could take, or I could just say one sentence, but there's so much involved. It really depends on the circumstances, who's involved, the personalities, the timing, the outcome you're looking for, culture. And that's why when I talk to my clients, I'm asking a lot of questions. I don't just have a one size fits all, which is why I haven't yet figured out how to do a group coaching or like a group coaching exercise, because everything is so customized to the person on the other side of the Zoom that I'm coaching.
Yeah, I love that. Let's go backwards a little bit. I saw in an interview that one of the questions was, what was a time in your life that you could change, if any? And you actually gave a sweeping primary and high school, primary school and high school. And I'm just curious, what were those years like, and how did they form this sort of bold C-suite whisperer that is Paru?
So I'm going to take a little bit of that back. I'm really happy in life right now. And I know for a fact I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for everything I've experienced or been through and all the circumstances that were a thing back then. If I could still be where I am today, but change the pain I went through in primary and high school, I would do that. So primary, high school, I grew up in a very, very conservative, traditional Indian household in the 70s and early 80s in racist Britain. So we had bricks thrown through our window. We had racial slurs shouted at us. I've had skinheads and punks chasing me on my little red poppy bike at the age of 8 saying, Pecky, go home and I'm going to kill you. It was scary. Anyway, some of that racism did translate to school. And I was made fun of for being Indian. I was also a chubby kid, so I was made fun of for being chubby. So how that translated in who I am today is it was safer to observe and figure out where the next landmine was or where the next grenade was going to get thrown than it was to participate. And how that worked in my favor now is I observe and have a very keen eye and a very keen ear, which I've been trained for, that I think many people didn't have the life circumstance to have to force them to equip themselves.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that's, I know some of the work you do. So as people are trying to think about how do I turn lemons into my purpose, I assume these are the kinds of things you discover for our audiences. They're thinking about, they didn't go through that, but they went through other challenges, trauma, have other disabilities, et cetera. What are the types of questions and things they should be doing to figure out, like, how can I really make that my force?
For starters, I want them to be kind to themselves. And I don't mean in the fluffy way. Oh, be good to yourself, dig deep. And I'm a big advocate of owning everything about you, everything. So for starters, I don't like it when I say I don't like it, I help them through it because when I'm working with you, I'm your biggest fan, but I'm also really harsh. I think I was telling you, or I've told many people this, when you work with me, you will be punched and you will be hugged simultaneously. I'm not soft at all. I will tell you things that other people are scared to. I will tell you things you might not want to hear. But I'm there to catch you too. I'm not doing it to be mean. I'm doing it to be real so that we can address it. Going back to your question, remind me what your question was because my mind went off in 3 different directions.
How do other people find essentially your hardship that you do? How do others start to do
That's
it? I know that's some of the work that you do.
Yes. For starters, when you're thinking about it, don't self-filter and be apologetic about something. It is what it is. Just be straight that, oh, okay, this happened. Or, oh, yes, I messed this up, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. I find many people start to subtly malfunction when they're not being who they really are, and which is why we're here talking together, and when they're trying to cover something up or be something else. It is what it is, own it, and state it as a fact. I find if you're not confident about the things that you don't like about yourself, you're giving people ammunition to also just like you. Just own it. There are things that I don't think are fantastic about me, but I love them anyway. It's taken me a very long time to get here. There are some things I'm still working on, my waistline being one of them.
We're in the club.
I hope that answers what you want.
No, I think that's right. Start by being kind. Speaking of being kind, I actually want to go a different direction. I know when we first met and you popped into my head to be on the podcast, one of the first things I thought about is the challenges that even executives, that everybody has around having tough conversations in the workplace. And that's the employee who's not up to snuff. That's the job elimination. That's our numbers aren't hitting forecast. Maybe talk to us a little bit. I'm sure you've done coaching around having tough conversation. Any advice that you could give for people that are like, I'm really smart and I'm really good at what I do, but when it comes to tough conversations, I want to crawl under my desk.
I love tough conversations. I really do. Why? Why do I love tough conversations? Because it's the beginning of something different. Once you've had the tough conversation, something's going to change, whether it's an action or a perception or a mindset. But I'm all for change. I challenge status quo all the time. I'm always looking to be better, do better, grow. And I want that for my clients. If that's not something they want, then that's fine. But I don't think we'd work great together if they weren't looking to be better or do better. And not just for themselves, but for the people around them. I like working with people who, it does start with you and I want you to do and be better yourself, but not with the intention of you being power hungry and mean to those around you. It needs to be for something bigger and better for everyone else around you. But in terms of the tough conversations, language is so important, so important. So when you're going to have a tough conversation with someone, I would advise, again, there's so much that I would ask, but if I'm going to be generic, I would say get out of your own head and be factual. When you're speaking to someone, avoid saying you, because that's very aggressive, in my opinion. Keep it business focused. Also ask questions. Don't go straight in there without understanding them. Be curious about the other person. And I don't mean here's a templated script. Genuinely be curious about the other person. Who are they? Why are they behaving the way they behaved? Why did they do what they did? Ask them. And definitions are so important. I start most of my difficult conversations with asking for people's understanding of X, Y, and Z so that we're on the same page. And then I would give them my thoughts on what my translation or my definition of X, Y, and Z is. That way I'm not opposite them, I'm next to them. Saying, this is how I'm looking at it. How are you looking at it? And then I'm very factual with a difficult conversation with, okay, so the business needs this and this. The problem we have is this is what's happening. Do you think we could do about that? And hopefully they'll come out with a good answer. And if it's not something that I think is feasible, I would say, here's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts on that? If there are behavioral issues, we're talking about something completely different. That's a different kind of tough conversation and would need a concrete example to be able to coach you through that.
Let's do it. Let's do an example. So Joe is on the team. He's rated.
Am I coaching you?
Yeah, we're going to pretend
I'm coaching you.
but we're going to make him.
Oh, you're Joe. Fine. You're Joe.
And I'm rated as 3 every year, mainly because I have some fits of brilliance. But then other times I am tough to deal with. I make promises I can't deliver. My work isn't so good. But then there's other times my boss will get an email that says, oh my God, Joe just was like a superstar and solved our big problem. Okay. And Joe's a project manager. He does technical project management and gearing up for a year-end performance review. And in the past, he didn't work for you in the past, and he's just been told you're okay. But he's a problem because he is so up and down. How would coach someone to have that conversation, or maybe just have that conversation with me as Joe? That tough conversation.
There is so much going through my head right now. I would want to get to know Joe. I would ask Joe, so you're Joe. I would say, Joe, what's going through your mind when you're performing really well? I would ask the same questions for when you're not. I would ask him whether when other people think he's not performing well, does he have the same assessment of himself? So do you think you're not performing well? What does well look like? What does that take? What do you want the outcome to be? I'm very outcome focused when I'm coaching my clients. What do you want the outcome to be? Actually, I'm going to go off on a tangent on that one because with outcome, but I do want to address the Joe thing. Oh my goodness, so many things going on through my mind. So with the outcome based thing, if you start from point A and you go to point B and point C and point D, people do a lot of self-filtering and ego gets in the way. That I don't want to look bad, or I don't want them to think this, or I don't want to do that, or that's not going to look good. I'm one of these people that as a kid, I never saw the point of doing a maze where I would keep hitting a wall in the maze. Like that was a waste of time. I would start in the middle and draw the path backwards and be like, okay, this is the path to get there. This is the path I'm going to color it. And I approach life like that and my coaching like that. I always ask, what outcome are you looking for? And then we work backwards. And because we start at what the outcome looks like and feels like,
yeah,
and then work backwards, ego's less of a big deal. They're not being defensive because it's like, okay, you can do that, but it would take this and it would take this and you will need to say this and you will need to say that. And they're like, but we've just sat there for a minute and looked at what the outcome will be if you do that. And that usually gets a lot of buy-in. In fact, it always gets the buy-in. You'd be like, okay, I'm going to park my ego for a minute because I'm aiming for that over there and that's what it looks like. And that's what I have to do.
I love that. So for example, going into that conversation with Joe, you need to know, because this gone on so long, that your outcome is that he understands it's time to look maybe for something new that's a better fit? Or is your outcome, Joe, he's only been around for a while. I just want to get him more good days than bad days. And so I love the metaphor of the start with the end.
So with Joe, I would say, what do you want your outcome to be? And if his outcome is, I want...
his Joe's outcome, not your outcome.
Not mine, Joe's.
Yeah,
I'm always focusing on the client. So if Joe's outcome is, I want a promotion, I'd be like, what do you think of promotion? What would it take for the promotion to be awarded to you? You'd say, I need to perform at this level. Okay, what would it take to perform at that level? And I would look at everything, the relationships, the skill, the technical ability, everything. And if one of the things we hit upon is, say, relationships, I'd say, what would your relationship with X need to be? And I would have them describe it. And if Joe can't, that's when I would interject. So this is where I don't actually call myself a coach. I'm an executive strategist. Yeah. With coaching, you're bringing out the best in others. Coaching is involved in what I do. I bring out the best in others, but I'm also very opinionated and will share my opinion, but not upfront. I want to help the client get there, but then I will share my insights if they don't. So with Joe, he says, I need a better relationship. I'll say, what do you need that to look like? And if he's not getting to where I feel he needs to be, or I have a different insight, I will share that. So to me, it sounds like your boss needs to see this and this. You're not showing it. What can we do to make sure you show that? And hopefully, again, Joe will come up with it. But if he doesn't, I can bet my bottom dollar I will have an opinion about it.
But what I love about this so much is so many people have gone into conversations, been the quote unquote victim and also the perpetrator, if you will, of just asking a question, but it's that broad. So how do you think you're doing, Joe? In fact, my daughter just got asked it last night. She had her 3 days of basketball tryouts. And then they had the dreaded pull them one by one into the room to find out if they made the high school basketball team. And the first thing I asked her, how do you think you did? And I'm so proud of her. I guess they told her she had the best answer of anyone that had come in there. She said, I gave it my all, but I'm ready to give more. I was like,
Awesome.
but most people aren't ready for that question. What I'm hearing you're saying is instead of going into a tough conversation or performance review with somebody on the other end and just asking, how do you think you're doing? Which is almost like a very passive aggressive, right? Because in your head, you're like, you're not doing great. And that's why I'm going to have a tone. But instead, it's almost like you're really breaking it down. First, what's your goal? My goal is to become a senior project manager. My goal is to move on to this project. And you're saying, what do you need to get there? And having them outline it and then really dissecting those components instead of starting with this broad, how do you think you're doing? And there's no way you're going to meet in the middle.
Yes, I like asking a lot of questions to get that clarity. Clarity is actually the first word on my website. It's about having clarity because then you can have those conversations without them being, what are they going to think? How are they going to take it? And what they don't understand me. Clarity is so important. If someone asks me a question that is so broad, I don't know how to answer. I never answer it. I ask the question back and I ask the context. So if someone asked me in a performance review, how do you think you're doing? I would either break it down in categories because that's just how I think, or I would say, is there a specific context to that question? Or is there a certain category you'd like me to focus on first? That way, at least I know I'm answering the question they're asking versus what I think they may be asking.
Which is so broad and elusive. I love that. Just if you get one of those nebulous questions, whether it's in performance review or it's in a quarterly business review or whatever it is, if it feels too big and almost like a landmine, then you have the right to go back and say, what are you looking for me to assess? My attitude, my ability to meet deadlines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I love that.
Hey there, it's Erin. I'm just popping in real quick to ask you a question. Is there any chance you know someone who is looking for a keynote speaker for their upcoming event? Look, I know that many event organizers, they struggle to find a speaker who provides both tangible value and business knowledge, but that also lights their audience on fire. And I truly believe there aren't many speakers like me out there who are both former corporate executives and professionally trained speakers. And there's definitely none that roll in with an orange suitcase they unpack with their audience. Trust me on that. I would love nothing more than to bring my message of using authenticity as your strategic career and business advantage to people spinning in your universe, especially if you'd be there. I promise my talks always create an immediate buzz, but not just right after, but for months and years after the event is over. You can learn more about my message, style, and reviews and share my speaking info by going to beauthenticinc.com/keynote-speaking. That's B, just the letter B, authentic.com/keynote-speaking. Or of course, we have it right in the show notes to make it easy for you too.
So now let's say Paru, I'm trying to say, do you notice how I'm trying to say your name? Like I'm Paru.
Yes, Paru.
Stop with the pa. Now you're going into a conversation at a quarterly business review with your boss and CFO and others. And the business 3 months in a row has missed its revenue numbers. And there's a tough conversation. They don't expect you to miss it for the third month in a row. Maybe last month you said, not to keep role playing because you're like, this is the most miserable interview, but I know our audience and they're like, this. Oh my God, what would she do? I want to hear how she does it. So we're going to make you suffer on behalf of our listeners.
Bring it on.
You don't even have to role play. Like, what would be some of your mindset? Because I love this. You love tough conversations because there's going to be change at the other end, which I know took you a while to answer and you did your own self-discovery, but that's really powerful. It's really this positive that there is something positive. So how would you go into that tough conversation where most people would be miserably dreading it? I'm going to get beat up.
If there's a large audience and there's going to be a tough conversation, I would get to the audience in advance of them being in the same room together. Relationships are a lot easier when it's a one-to-one relationship, in my opinion. So if there's going to be 4 senior stakeholders in the room, I would make sure I get to each individual stakeholder in advance of them being in the room together. I want to know what I'm in for. When I get into that room, I want to be able to predict what is going to come my way. And if I can preempt that in advance of those conversations, I would be better equipped to have a potential solution, even if I haven't actioned the solution. But if I've had the time to think of it, I'm less likely to get shot.
Yeah.
I might get hurt a little bit, but I won't die from it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good advice. What else? What else as you go into that? So you have these pre-conversations. It's not a surprise. You're going to miss the numbers. They give you your feedback questions. What else? What other advice?
Well, if I was coaching you, if you're the one that didn't meet your numbers, I'd want to know why. I would want to know why. It wouldn't just be like, oh, you haven't met your numbers. Too bad, going to that and you're going to get shot. It would be, what happened you? What went wrong? How can you fix it? How can you make sure it doesn't happen again? What will you do differently? How do you feel about it? Take ownership for the parts that you're responsible for. I would help you own the mistakes rather than be defensive, because no one really wants to deal with someone who's defensive, because then they're too busy taking care of the audience member is going to be too busy taking care of themselves as well as taking care of you. And no one's got time for that. I would coach you in advance to understand what the problems were and then have you own them with confidence and come up with a solution and go into the meeting with those.
I love it. I love it so much. There's another thing I wanted to dive into that I saw in my homework. You said something that caught my eye. You said magic happens in momentum.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
Oh my goodness. I had that as my screenshot on my iPhone about 10 years ago for a whole year. That old adage, standing still is the equivalent of moving backwards. Things move, things change, people evolve, time passes. If you're not moving, you're going backwards. And by the magic that happens in momentum, even if you're scared to do it anyway, because again, it's the same answer to that other question. Change will happen. You'll grow, you'll learn something. You'll know that, oh, I actually don't like that. That didn't work. But at least you know now and you can move forward. I'm a big fan of momentum. Standing still bores me. That's me. That's my personality. Some people like it because it's stability. I'm not risk averse. And I do like newness. I do change. And momentum creates that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. When I read that too, like I said, with anything, we hear these things and we put our own lens and our own experience. And it made me really think about, there was actually a workshop I did 12 months ago, talked about the power of momentum too, just in terms of sales and growing your business and in a micro sense. Like literally relationships with people. For example, let's say you had somebody that wrote you an email and said, I loved your book so much. It was great. The difference between you sitting on that and maybe 3 days later and being like, oh, thank you so much, versus like capturing that energy at that moment where they had the excitement to write you to say, I loved your book, or I loved our coaching session, or just this concept of finding those times to ride the wave with your relationships and just noticing that momentum, that frequency can die down. But if you can keep it going, and it's not just about speed. I don't know. Does that resonate too? That was part of what I took out of that too. It really.
Yeah. I loved what you just said about riding the waves. People are forgetful and enthusiasm dwindles. So just the example you gave for a sale, or if someone does say, hey, Erin, I loved your book. Going back to them a week later or a month later, they've moved on to the next shiny object by then. The effort it takes to then remind them how great you are it's just wasted energy.
Yeah.
I'm all about, oh, you like my book? Great. This is where you buy it. Or if you tell me you bought one from here and here, I'll send you a signed copy and keep it going. It's just something that just came in my head is I did improv classes for a while, for an entire year. I did improv classes about, oh my goodness, when was it? Maybe 10 years ago. And that's all about building on other people's ideas. And I see momentum like that as well. Do something and then the next thing and then the next thing and the next thing, rather than just, yeah, okay, it is. Yeah. Momentum. And the bit about magic happens in momentum. Magic is a result of an action or something that's changed it's cause and effect, right? It's like a chemical, my mind's gone blank, but when in chemistry, when I was at school, you do the reaction, that's it. So you put something in something else and it reacts.
Right.
Yeah, that's the magic, when something reacts. The magic won't happen if something is standing still. You need other things to happen for the reaction to happen, which equates to magic.
Yes, I love that so much. And I think for our listeners, are mostly corporate women, mid-career and up, I think momentum is so important in those relationships and those sponsors. I've seen people who will tell me, oh, I had some bigwig SVP that reached out and they're like, yeah, I was actually in this meeting a couple months ago and they said something to me. And I'm like, did you reach back out to them? No, not yet. Grab the momentum when somebody notices what you're doing, or you have a good meeting with somebody, or keep that magic going with the momentum. I think
I have the same theory with favors, by the way. If you've done something to someone and they say, let me know if there's anything I can do for you, audience, you need to know there's an expiration date on that offer. Always. So if someone does say, let me know if I can do something for you, and there is something they can do, don't waste their time if you're just using the favor for no benefit. But if there is something they can do, please momentum, grab it straight away and say, actually, it's great. Because you would have just done them a favor. They would have all these lovely feels about you and what you've done for them. But that will, like everything else, dwindle.
distracting.
And right. And then when you do ask for a favor later on, they'll forget. Maybe they won't forget, but I do feel like it's harder.
It's a body in motion tends to stay in motion. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Of that.
Exactly.
I love it. I want to turn to your book. You have a new book coming out.
I do.
Messes Behind Successes. What's
The premise behind that is about navigating reality on your rise to the top. I am so tired, Erin, of reading books about these unicorn multi-billionaires. I'm happy for them. I'm really happy for them. But most of them, the way they talk about their books is, life was tough. I lost the money and then I had no money. And then I was on the golf course with my dad's best friend and he invested in my business and yay, look at me now. I'm really rich. And that's great for you. How is that going to help me? I don't have a rich dad. I don't have a golf course to play golf on. I didn't go to Harvard. And the majority of people didn't. You hear all these success stories, but no one gives you a how-to guide on how to navigate the mess to get there. And mess is real. People get married, they get divorced, they move house, they move country, people get ill, people pass away, and it's hard. That's on a personal side. But at work, you don't get on with your boss, or you don't get that promotion, or you mess up in an interview, or you mess up in a meeting, or you don't meet those targets and you're scared that you're going to get fired. No one really talks about that. And the reason I'm writing the book is, one, as I'm interviewing lots of C-suite people who on paper look like they're doing really well and they are happy and they are successful, but they had so much mess on the way there. And I want to share those stories, one, so people don't feel alone, and two, to give people tangible examples of real life and how they can navigate real life to still make it.
I sincerely, and the first line in my book says, I hate books, because most books I hate, because I cannot wait to read it, because you're absolutely right. When I listen to things like How I Built This with Guy Raz, the podcast, or other things, I love hearing about the challenges. And it's not because I feel better about myself because somebody else is bad. It's so inspiring and motivating, right? Those are the things that we lean on when we're like, I don't know if I really should be doing this, going for this career, or going to this big meeting, or trying for the executive job, or starting a new business. I also just love the title, Messes Behind Successes. It's so
Thank you.
And I think about some of the my favorite people I follow. For example, I love Mel Robbins. I think she's phenomenal. She's a speaker, author. She's that like North Star for me. And she's super open. But I would devour a book that had her journey and including many of the messes, so that I could feel like, I'm not alone. So when does the book come out?
I'm halfway through writing it, but I paused it because of mom's health. So I'm prioritizing family right now. My intention is to pick it up in spring next year, and it should be, I'm on target at the moment to launch at the end, in a year from now, basically December next year, December 2023.
And for those that are listening, as you said, you're not an executive coach, you're an executive strategist, you're a part whisperer, part ninja, part
execution ninja.
Execution ninja. I love that one too. Who's your ideal client? Who are the people that are listening that might say, I really would benefit from working with Paru?
So executives in corporations, first-time CEOs. I love working with first-time CEOs because they don't realize how great they really are. and I get to help them shine. Otherwise, I would say C-suite or rising C-suite people in small businesses or multi-billion-dollar corporations, I've worked with them all. I have multi-billion-dollar corporations that hire me to work with select executives there, and also just funded startups who've hired a new CEO. I also work with individuals who are in transition, who a lot of my work, when people come to me and say, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I'm like, why? I really want to know why. And 50% of the time, once they've answered the why, they realize that they've been working so hard for a dream that is no longer a dream, and their dream has changed. And I love it when those epiphanies happen. I like working with people in transition as well to understand who they are, like deep down. Things happened along the way, and I like helping people recalibrate. So who are you today? Because of everything that's happened, or despite everything that's happened, who are you today? And what does today's version of you want in their future? That's what I want to know. And then I want to help you get there.
I love that so much. I'm sure people are going to be looking out for your book, but where can they follow you in the meantime and get all your brilliant, hopefully snippets of the book along the way? Little insider.
Yeah, two things. One is the only social media I'm on is LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Paru Radia. You'll have the spelling as part of the podcast, I'm sure. Also, my website, paruradia.com. There's lots on there too. There'll be a form on there. I'm about to put a form on there for pre-sale to my book for those who are interested in hearing when it comes out. But I do share my wisdom in quote, because it's a word you use. I do share a lot of that on LinkedIn. My stories, and even the book has a lot of personal stories that I was cringing when I was writing, but they were such a big part of who I've become and how I think and therefore operate, that I've shared the embarrassing moments that got me to where I am today.
I love that. I love it. And promise me you'll also read your own audiobook.
I absolutely will.
You have such a great personality. Obviously, you have a great accent. You have a great way of being that I just think your authenticity will come through in that audible audio book. And I know I went through, should I hire somebody? Should I do it myself? Should I not? And so that's just my one selfish request. I want it on Audible when you have time. I love it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for finding your way into my world, which we came together through a mutual friend. I'm so excited to share this with our listeners, and I'm really excited for them to continue to be inspired by your candor, your insights. And just thank you so much for giving us part of you today.
Erin, thank you so much. And thank you for opening the door into your world and letting me in. It's been so much fun.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.